In 2014, I quit my job as a CPA in Italy and I moved to the United States to improve my English. This is how my entrepreneurial journey started, and since then, I've been focusing on growing myself to grow my business. In this podcast, I just want to create a collection of all the lessons that I learned through my mistakes and the success that came from the wins, going through all the stories, the fun facts, and the anecdotes that I've been experiencing through this journey. My name is Cristina, and let's start collecting picture memories. So, ciao Dina, welcome to Collecting Picture Memories podcast. I was telling Dina a little bit behind the scene and then she's going to introduce herself. She's great. That I was finding the purpose of this podcast to share whatever I'm collecting during this entrepreneurial journey, so good and bad, from lessons and wins. And I thought of her because before we started recording this podcast, I was asking her about her life and how it went. And she has such a positive attitude that I'm so envious. Oh. So, Dina, welcome.
Oh, it is so nice to see you again, Cristina. I mean, we kind of go back a couple of years, which is really exciting. I'm sure we'll get to talk about that. And I'm excited for you starting this podcast, like as if you didn't have enough to do, but you've always been that way to me, someone who just can like go and build. And I love the name of the podcast, Collecting the Memories. I automatically envision just like this old picture box of different pictures and notes and memories. And I love that feel. Maybe it's the Italian vibe in us. We have that nostalgic kind of.
Might be. Actually, the name came from me I don't know if you are familiar with Brené Brown. If you ever heard of her.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I saw her show on Netflix, like it's one episode, and she was telling that her daughter many times stops in the middle of experiences and she goes like this. And she asks like, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm taking picture memories. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to take picture memories of everything that I'm experiencing, and this was where the idea came from. So
yeah, no, that's a great idea, and I'm sure you. I mean, I feel like I should be interviewing you.
No.
I know.
Today's you.
I know. But I know your story is so inspiring as well, and I feel like I watched you from the beginning build the business. Just Healthy Italia here in Madison. It's my town, it's my downtown. And I feel like you started on a smaller scale, but it was always a beautiful store. It was always a beautiful space. And like you worked round the clock, year round, like you really, wow.
I try every day. I don't want to get bored. So I'm like, okay, what can I do today? And here's the podcast. And then what else? So
yeah, I know. I'm scared to ask you what's next.
Don't ask because then I'm going to start thinking. But no, I feel so good talking to you, Dina, because yes, we met, and it's not a couple of years ago, because to me, COVID, it's like, oh, I need to add 2 years to whatever I think. It's like 2 plus 2. Back before COVID. And to me, talking to you is like talking to another entrepreneur in a different way. Yeah. And actually, when people see me, I have a food business, but my passion is not food like you. My passion is business. So I'm like, yeah. And I love to see you in the kitchen, always developing new recipes. And now cooking with Sienna is another level, because this is my dream one day. But how all your business ideas started? Because I never got to ask you that. Like, where Dish It Girl Dina came from?
We just got to work in the kitchen. So I didn't mean to start any of this, and I feel like a lot of business stories.
I hear you.
That way. I actually was a school counselor at an elementary school, but I've always been super obsessed with food. Like, I mean, all my friends were reading Cosmopolitan magazine, but I was reading Gourmet magazine, eating well. My dad bought me a subscription to, oh gosh, the magazine's not in print anymore, but you probably know it. Cucina. It was an Italian magazine, and it was, I think half of it was like written in Italian, but he subscribed for me. And this is what I would read. And I think also my family, being an Italian American family, always gathering on Sunday. My mom was the type that made dinner pretty much like every single night, which wasn't always the norm in other families. And my dad, wasn't only my mom who did food, it was my dad who was always really excited about food. And because I was the oldest of four, he would often take me along on his drives where he would find the bakery or he would find this hole in the wall to eat at, and I would get to go along with him. So I think all of those things just kind of added up. The idea of always having family and friends meeting around the table, the fun of finding something new or making something new. I don't know. I really caught the bug, and I tortured my siblings with doing cooking shows and like putting random ingredients in a bowl and making them eat it, and they're gagging.
I doubt it was a torture for them because like when there's
When
good
you're
food.
like 10 years old and putting pepperoni in salad, which actually does work nowadays, but back then wasn't really the best thing. And then just as an outlet, like I was even in college, I mean, on the little stoves that we had in college, I was cooking like chicken parm and like whatever and having everybody over for dinner. I was crazy. I was always concerned about where we were going to eat, what we were eating, and I just loved it. I found it to be fun. So I started to write about the different restaurants I went to. I would write down some of my recipes because friends, and this was before like blogging was big. Before there was even Instagram and social media. I mean, I sound like I'm 1,000 years old now. But I just thought to myself, hey, like I don't want to forget like some of my favorite places I've been to eat. And I want to be able to give someone a recipe when they ask. So I just started writing about it. And then weird things happened to me always. And as I was a school counselor, I ended up on television for a little bit with my family. My sister's married to Kevin Jonas from the Jonas Brothers, which is a big group. And they did a reality show called Married to Jonas, where my family ended up on TV. And because of that, we had to have social media. That's when Instagram just came out. And from there, I had a social media account, which I obviously didn't know what to do with. But what am I doing all the time? Eating and cooking. So I would just be like, this is what I made for dinner tonight, not knowing that that was going to turn into like food influencing or food blogging. And then once brands would say, hey, would you make a recipe for our Easter campaign and photograph it? And then I made money that way. And I was like, what is this? So just from there, a whole new world opened up to me. So by day, I was a school counselor, and by night, I was creating recipes, writing recipes, and then just getting into that world of like different food events in the city, meeting different people. And that parlayed into doing food television, where brands were like, hey, can you go on TV and do a food demo? I was like, no, I don't know how to do that, but I'll do it anyway. So there I am with like crock pots in my hotel room. Like, I'm not a food stylist. I'm not trained. I don't know, but I did it anyway. And I figured it out, and it just kept going.
But I have to tell you, Dina, that I mean, personally, but I feel that is what people love about you, that it's you. Like you're trained, but you're not trained, but you find a way. And I have to be super honest because this is who I am. I cannot lie. Like when the first time Carla, who was working with me back then, said like, oh, we need to reach out to Dina because she lives close and she's lovely. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, her sister married this guy. I didn't even know who the Jonas brother were. I'm like, to me is Dina. And I meet Dina, and I've always been super impressed of how sweet and kind and down on earth you are. No matter what happened to you and what you have, it could take you to another level. And like, no, Christina, I don't even have time for you. Like, you know who I am? Like, this is what you expect from somebody like you. And it's never like that. Like,
Christina, I clean my own toilets, okay?
Like, you're such an inspiration for how you handle what you got. Like, yeah,
I appreciate that, because I see nothing in my life or in me that's really like above anybody else. Like I still feel like I'm building, like I still feel like I could do better. I'm a mom and a wife first. I think that's what it is with me. Mom, wife, family first at this point before my business. That's just kind of what happened once I had Sienna. Like everything just kind of changed a little bit. And I think that I have a bunch of different tracks in my mind, but I think the way I also built my business, if you will, was by being good to anybody who came across my path. I never viewed myself as top of my game, boss lady, this, and that. I mean, that's all well and good. That's just not the rhetoric that plays in my mind. I'm just like a worker bee. And if I can encourage anybody in my path, if I could show them kindness in my path, then that even supersedes like the cooking.
You sure do it, because every time that I see you, like I see you doing a lot of different things, but with that kindness in your voice, in the way that you act, in the way you present yourself, like, oh yeah, my cookbook is coming out, like, yeah, not a big deal. I mean, not a big deal. I went on this TV show, like, just if you want to watch it, like, oh yeah, everybody goes on a TV show, like, well, you make it like sounds like normal, and I think personally that makes you even more special. Like it
is like I come home from the TV show and I wipe off the makeup and I'm picking her up from school, or but writing the cookbook, I'll tell you, we could talk about that later if you want. It is not the most
absolutely not, go for it.
It is not the most glamorous thing. The cookbook is really nitty gritty hard work that tests your faith, that tests your skill, that tests your mental ability. It's a lot. It's a lot.
When is it coming out, and what's the title? Can you share the title?
What? I haven't told anybody, but you know what, Christina, I love you so much. And I'm gonna tell you. So everybody, here it is, big announcement.
Oh my God.
Podcast, April 8th, 2025. April 8th.
Oh
so now people
God.
have to tune in if they want to know.
Absolutely.
That's how we're going to bait them here.
Is there a reason why you picked that date, or they gave it to you, or random?
The publisher, usually, if you're working with a publisher, they will give you the date. The thought was, so it could have come out in the fall of this year, but it's an election year, which means speaking press-wise, there's going to be so much coverage on the election and so much focus on that it's just going to make things a little bit more challenging to get press on different things. So it didn't seem like that would be the smartest release. So we're going to wait till spring. I think it's great. I think it's before the summer. I think it's Mother's Day, graduations, bridal showers, like all good celebrations.
I love spring. It's like after the fall, you're like, finally we're alive again. Some here. Like, that's
and
great.
The cookbook is unique because it's also a devotional, which means I didn't want to, just kind of like you were saying before, I didn't want to drop a book in somebody's lap that had a bunch of like shiny pictures of me and like my beautiful life and my beautiful family, which it is beautiful, and just recipes that make people feel like I'm never going to be able to do it. I'm not measuring up, kind of like the whole social media thing where you compare yourself. I wanted to also be able to like grab that person and say like, hey, like, you're doing a good job. What you're doing is worth it. You're, just all of those things that I say on my social media account. So I have the devotional pieces, which are the encouraging words throughout the book. So it's kind of like two books in one. So I think it's perfect that it releases around that Mother's Day and around that time where people are celebrating, weddings, babies, like just new life. Everything coming up. So.
While you were talking now, and then we get back to the book now in a second, but I was listening to your last episode of your podcast, and you were talking about rest, how we don't devote time to rest, and we always feel ashamed where we don't accomplish everything that we wanted to do in a day. And it just made me stop because, as you said, like, you're a busy bee, I'm a busy bee too. And to me, what I do is never enough. Then one side, I think that mindset brought me where I am and made me do what I did. But on the other side, like resting, meaning not like that you need to stay in bed, but saying like
No.
it's enough, like
Oh,
stop,
I love that.
stop.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
because I'm like, no, Christina, if you want to achieve that, you need to keep going, 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 going. And I'm listening to you, like, you know what? Maybe sometimes it's not bad to rest and
Yeah.
stop.
I
And
mean,
like, I feel that in the cookbook, like coming out, part of that talking.
yes, for sure. I mean, look, it's a very complex emotion. I think that, or that idea of rest, depending upon who you are. And like you said, like sometimes it's hard to tell yourself, like, that's enough. I did enough. And I think that, I mean, I'm still guilty of it for sure. I'm working on it. I think someone who is entrepreneurial, someone who is a problem solver, someone who is a leader who will pick things up when nobody else is. Like if you have those attributes, it is hard to rest because you feel like if you don't do it, well, then nobody else is going to do it. And then it's going to be a domino effect of how you're going to suffer. Or if you stop for a minute, then somebody else is going to come and beat you to it. And then that dream that you had here, well, someone took it before you did. Like there's a lot of lies that we tell ourselves, and we also come from like a scarcity mindset, whereas if like there's not enough to go around. Or for me, I've had to realize, God is still working when I cannot. Especially going through the postpartum depression or the cancer, through all of those things, those valleys, those hard places, they're hard. There's no way around it. But he did prove each and every time when I thought I was going to lose everything, I did not. Did things turn out the way I always wanted them to? Do I always feel like I could do better? I could have managed better. Yeah, I think that's a natural human thing. But to give space for the fact that, if he's put a purpose together for you, if he's put a plan, there's nothing that can stand in that way. Like you're going to find a way. And sometimes in the rest, that's where you learn. Without rest, our brain can't recalibrate, and you're not seeing everything in front of you. You start getting a tunnel vision every single day. And if you never sit back for a moment, you're not allowing for your mind to expand, your ideas to expand. You're also not allowing for anybody else, whether you're leading a staff or your family at home, you're not letting somebody else come in and do anything. You're not delegating ever. I don't know if you've ever come across.
Oh, it's such a great attitude because, like, thinking about, I read different quotes about God when you say, if God will know your plan, he would laugh at you because he always had bigger plans. The problem is, to me personally, the struggle is when I have a plan and it doesn't go as I thought, letting go and accepting what is instead of what you wanted is the hardest part.
It
I
is so
know that it's going to end up well. I know that something better or bigger is waiting for me on the other side, but waiting for me to get to the other side is always the struggle. But thinking that, oh, I'm doing my best, but God is still here and doing whatever he wants to do about me. It's such a, like, I don't know where you find the strength to think about that in dark moments, because when you're good, you're like, yeah, God is here. Like, when
yes.
bad, like, God, are you here or what? Sometimes you're like, what is
I feel
going
like that's
on?
the moment where he's the closest because, I feel like that's where we learn the most, when we have to like dig that deeper
I
faith, or
agree.
that's what like, I've brought you to this place because I need you to let go of this. I need you to let go and depend upon me in order to move forward. And also learn how to be content in what we consider the small things are actually
Huge.
things sometimes. When I had cancer last year, I had to make choices. I could not keep operating at the same rate. And I knew that, like, even still now, I'm working through that because it didn't make sense. I got the book contract, and then right in that same time space, got diagnosed. And so here I am with like the biggest dream happening, thinking like, wow, God, like he really set that up. I mean, I've waited at least 8 years for that. That was a long wait. And some people wait even longer, but when it fell into place the right way and I knew he had a hand in it, it really went, and it's been amazing. But to get that book contract at the same time of getting cancer and knowing that I would not, I would have to put all my energy into myself, my family, and then trying to hit all my book deadlines. Like those were the three things I was going to try to hang on to while I went through treatment. Now, the other sides of my business, you would say, oh, you have to make sure your Instagram is still running, your the back end, your websites, your this, your that. Like I would have to upkeep all that and be trying to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So when it comes time to promote my book, I would be at my best. But I knew I had to let that piece go. I was not going to physically be able to do it all anymore. And trust me, I push. Like I do way too, I still do way too much, but I push, and I had to let go of that piece and just say, you've given me a job, which is to take care of my family. And then this book is definitely from you. So I'm going to have to let the rest go and know that somewhere down the line, as I'm being obedient and faithful, I don't know how you're going to do it. It doesn't make, sometimes things like that don't make earthly sense. And sometimes we're putting him in a box and saying like, oh, I bet you God can only do this much. But it's not true. He can do so much more, but I like to put him in a box because I need to know what makes sense, what's on time, what's on schedule. I need no risks. I need everything black and white, Excel spreadsheet. And it can't always be that way. And I think that's what rest teaches you sometimes, or else you're going to burn out and get really sick like I did. So I'm stubborn. I don't know if you're stubborn, Christina, but I'm stubborn. It seems like he needs to like really throw me off the beaten path to be like, look, we need to rest and reset. So I'm not saying everybody needs to get cancer for rest, but I'm saying it's worth it to take care of yourself and give space for the possibility of other people to take care of things as
I'm
well.
stubbornness made person. Like until I don't get what I want, I don't stop. Like there's no way I stop. But I have to tell you that I started to learn to listen to my body. Like I'm like, Christina, if you don't stop, he's gonna shut it down. Like, so he's gonna stop you. Just listen. You can't, like, I was used to go for days with no eating. Like I forget to eat. Like I just go. And I could function for days. And I'm like, Christina, it's 2 days that you don't eat. Can you just stop? But it was good. Now, if it's like 3 or 4 in the afternoon and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired today. What happened to me? I'm like, maybe you have not eaten, like you haven't eaten yet. Like just go eat. And now I listen because otherwise it's going to shut down and it's going to faint. There's no way. So before you get to that point, like if you just take it easy. Like I'm not saying just to be lazy. I would die being lazy. But like I was telling you that I stayed in Italy for a month in June, and I had to drive around for many things. And I just listened to podcasts because my brain just kicks in and ideas flow and ideas. And I had to stop and write down all the time. Like, Christina, just breathe. And then it's going to start again. But if you just keep going, there's no room. There's no real thing that you're growing and doing, but it's not the way.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
So out of your, like, I feel that I'm such an Italian and I haven't learned enough from you Americans that you do great presentation about people. And I'm like, hi, this is Dina. And I didn't give you what you deserve. So as far as presentation, like all of you done, and like, we mentioned that you've been on many TV shows and you're like, yeah, it just happened, as always, like so down on earth. But out of your almost appearance that you have on TV, what was your favorite or the most exciting for special reasons, like the most memorable for you?
So I have to say there's a tie in that category. The first one I would say was when I was working with the show Home and Family on the Hallmark Channel. Brian had just said to me, "Oh, just enter the contest." Like, we were down the shore with my family at our shore house, and I was kind of blowing it off. They're like, "Oh, make the video making like meatballs or whatever, and see if they take you." And so they did, and then I ended up going there competing and winning. And then, which I hate competing, just so you know, do not like to compete with you. No, 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 no.
I
Don't
don't
like
like it either. I like to compete with myself only.
yeah, no, I don't. That's not my thing. But from there, that was my first time being on a television show where I wasn't dragging my own food in and my own crock pots and stuff. It was like a real professional, like you submitted your recipe to the kitchen, the food stylist did it, they made you look all pretty, and then they put you out in front. I was like, wow, this is so much less stressful than all the other. But all the other TV segments I've done before in local markets, like I appreciate those opportunities. I still do them, and absolutely love them. But it was a whole different experience. And here I was, like, for the first time flying back and forth to California because they kept me on more past my win. Like, they'd started
Wow.
adopting me as like a food person there, which was so exciting. So I would fly back and forth to Los Angeles to do the food segments, and you're on the Universal Studios lot. So as you're being driven into the lot, you're going past all the movie sets and the TV sets onto,
Wow.
and I was just like,
Living
this,
in a dream, in a movie, like, ooh, here
yeah, I
I
know it was for a minute there. And then I got pregnant and I still was flying back and forth. And then I had Sienna, and then like another year or so went by and the show went off air, sadly. I still miss it. It was a great one to watch. And then the next one I would say was being on the Today Show. And I feel like all the time I used to kind of like, in the back of my mind, it was twofold. I was like, oh, that's really hard to do. I don't see how I would ever make it there. So it really wasn't a goal of mine in a sense, because I was like, that's in a sense like trying to be an NBA player, like that's how I felt about it. And I didn't want to drive myself nuts, like trying to get there and negating all the other work I've done. But I felt like it was also, if I ever got to do it, it would be that moment where I'd be like, wow, like I've worked for so many years
Yes,
and
here
I
is the
made
prize.
it. And that's an example again of being good to people and never treating anybody or anything like they are not worth your time. Look, you need to have boundaries in business. I've learned that the hard way too, because I've been taken advantage of many times too, which really
I
stinks.
bet.
Um, but that came from during quarantine. Somebody was a Today Show food producer, but they were just asking different people on Instagram, like, hey, will you cook recipes once a week, and we're gonna put them up, not with the Today Show, but they were just trying to form a team of people who would cook and kind of just bring joy to people, like just try to get people's minds off of things. So they made a little schedule of different chefs and different food people from here and there. And so I contributed to that, and I struck up a friendship with them. And as the Today Show came back on air, they were just wonderful people too, and started getting their jobs back, and then started lobbying for me. And it took a year, but finally I got through. Somebody canceled. They needed somebody quick. And
There was God
how
behind it as well. It's
yes,
always
and that is how
there.
I got there. And I just remember being there, and I couldn't believe it. And I took that Today Show mug from the green room. I brought it home and I put it on my desk. And whenever I feel like I'm done, like it's over, I can't do this anymore, I'm gonna close up shop. When I'm discouraged, I just look at that mug and I remember, like, I got that call for the Today Show at a moment where I was considering, like, the fact
Giving
that
up.
my business had run its course and I was done. So
No, everything happens for a reason. I'm like, this is what I always think, and it happens at the right moment, even if you don't think it's the right moment.
Yeah.
And you said something that really resonated with me because during COVID, I had to shut down the kitchen. I couldn't have people here. But what I did, day one, I started to record recipes. I was doing it by myself, as you do, as you know. You have the camera, you cook, you stop, and then you edit. And I just told myself, even if I can bring joy to one person, that would make my day. And it didn't matter how many people I was helping, but you said we needed to bring people joy. This is what we did during COVID. So
Yeah, for sure.
talking about your business, then I don't want to take too much of your time. What's your vision for your business? What are your long-term, but you like say long-term, Christina? I'm shutting it down every day because I don't know what I'm doing.
I do. I go back and forth every day because, you know, the funny thing is like, I never started this saying like, this is what I'm going to be. It kind of just kept materializing, and wherever the doors opened is where I walked through. But I do see with having the cookbook come out, I finally feel like I have a leg to stand on, so to speak, being like, I'm Dina from, I'm an author now, which is great. It was hard for me to go on different shows and they would be like, well, how did you get here? Like, where are you from? Like, who let you in the door? I'd be like, I don't know, but I'm here to cook for you. So let's started. I never liked being like, oh, I just write a blog, which there's no shame in that. Like blogs are huge and people have made big businesses, but I just felt like always like until I had a cookbook, you know, it made me feel a little bit
more legit, like kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
I have something. They say that a book now is like your business card. I mean, a cookbook is more than a business card.
A little bit, yeah. And I remember speaking at a church in Seattle. I spoke at a women's conference, which was wonderful, and they themed it out all around like food and things like that. So they said to me, "Oh, would you bring your cookbook with you? Maybe sign it and give it away as part of a game that we're going to play." And like, I don't have a cookbook. They're like, what? And then at that point, what I did is I had some friends who had cookbooks and I brought those with me because they were some of my favorites. And I highlighted some of my favorite recipes in those books and gave them away. But I'm like, that was the point where I was like, this is getting sad. Something needs to happen. And, you know, thank God, like 2 months later, that is exactly what happened. So I just see the opportunity I just want to find a way to encourage people to wherever they're at in life, that whether I'm encouraging them in the kitchen to just like start simple, just the fact that you're trying to make dinner or make a meal for your family is like that's a great place to start. Like that's enough. I want people to get back to getting together with their family and friends. And you know, everybody's so busy with extracurricular activities, and I get that too. But I think that we need to keep our family units, however they may be, together. And I think that maybe that's not going to get you on the cover of Forbes magazine, but that's still worth it, what you're doing to foster relationships in your everyday. That's worth it. So I'm hoping that the cookbook just gives me a bigger platform to do that, whether it's to say that message on television or, you know, I would love to start a nonprofit through that. Yeah, I do have like you know, you'd be proud of me, Christina. I have a little business.
I'm already, so I don't have to be. I'm already proud of you.
I mean, I would love the opportunity for Dish It Girl and, you know, At the Kitchen Sink to grow to a point where it is actively helping other women, other people in their community and giving them the tools for that. That would be great. But we'll see what God puts in my path. I mean, I'm an exciting story because you never know where I'm going to show up next.
But it's so inspirational, Dina, because there's no plan, but you go with the flow. You don't say no. You're like, oh, I didn't think about this, but yeah, let me do it. Let's see where it takes. And I think like it's neither for me. I came to the United States to stay 6 months and now it's 10 years. I came to improve my English. Now I have a business. So it's like, and when people ask me, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. Because if you would have given me the crystal ball 10 years ago and showed my life today, I would say, no, this is not my ball. Give me mine. So I
Yeah.
would be curious to see mine in 10 years and see where life takes me. And
Yeah. I
never
think goals are
know.
always changing because you're always changing.
Exactly.
The
Absolutely.
surroundings are always changing. So we're always recalibrating. We know at the heart what we want for ourselves. But being flexible, I think is key.
Yeah. My last question for you, Dina, before I say hi, and I hope to see you back in our
Yes,
kitchen
I can't
cooking
wait. We gotta work
together. I
something
can't
out.
wait. Is like if you were to cook a meal for anyone, past
Ooh.
or present, what would it be and who would it be for?
Oh my goodness gracious. I'm gonna
Like,
say
oh, in my dream, I wish I could cook for this person. What would you cook?
what would I
And
cook?
who for?
At this point, I think I have to say this, but maybe it doesn't count. I would love to cook for my grandma again.
It
Um,
counts. It
For
counts.
sure. Of course, I would love to see her again. Show her what I'm doing now. And show her the book and all of that. And I think just to laugh with her again. She had a great laugh. And just to make her smile by cooking. I think what I would do for her, I remember one day what happened is she started not to be able to see. She got macular degeneration. So I would go up to her house, which was only like 10 minutes to me for me. And either I would drop off food here and there, or because she could still get around and such, but her vision was clouded at a certain point. And so I would go up and I would cook with her for her, sometimes in real time as well. And I just remember, I guess she must have been struggling with the fact that she was less and less able to execute dinner and such. And I was making chicken franchise and penne vodka, which is a very Italian American thing. I know. I know chicken franchise is not really even like
No,
Italian.
the thing is that we don't call it that way. It's chicken
Yeah,
scallopine with lemon
things
sauce.
that,
But
yeah,
like,
yeah. I
we're
know.
talking about the same thing. No worries.
Yeah, I know it's terrible. I know it makes you cringe. But that's what I was making her, because her and my grandfather, that was one of their favorite things. And I was standing at the stove talking to her, just cooking around, whatever. And I remember her stopping and just putting her head down, smiling, and just I said, what's going on, grandma? She's like, nothing. This is just so nice. And I just knew she was just so appreciative and just so happy that I was there. And it was just something I never forgot, like that little quick moment. So I think that would be great. That would be
That is
great.
great. I think that we all wanted to go back with our grandparents when we don't have them anymore. Such a great memories. And I think that personally, I always say, even at Health Italia, when we prepare food that people grab and go for dinner, the first ingredient is love. And
Yeah.
it's not just a marketing
Okay.
thing. Like, it's the kitchen is where you create memories that you're never going to forget. And food is the cure and it's love there. So I'm
Oh, we're on
getting
the
so
same
emotional
page.
thinking about
I know,
that.
oh my God, I'm crying. I
No, but
love
this
it.
is everything we do. I like sometimes when I have a bad day, I start cooking and I'm like, I really think that cooking is the cure. You just
Yes.
there. Your mind is there in putting everything you have just in a good meal. And I see in what you do every time, Dina. Like even when you do your stories, like, oh, here I'm adding, I'm like, see, she doesn't make it up. She's like me when I cook and I'm like struggling with the camera. What am I gonna do?
Oh, all the time. There is nothing polished or professional about me. I do try sometimes, but most of
no.
the
You're great. Thank you so much, Dina, for your time. It was so great to catch up with you after a long time. But as I said, I want to have you back here teaching cooking
Yes.
classes with us. But I can't wait to have your cookbook in my hands. Now I have to wait in the spring. But is it done or still working on it?
It is done, and they're at
Whoa.
the stage where they are laying it out and designing it. And getting it ready for print. So yeah, we're at that stage.
Congratulations, Nina. Great achievement. I can't wait to see what life brings in your life again. And I hope to see you soon over here.
Yes.
But thank you so much. If you like this podcast and the topics I'm talking about, and you want to know more about what I do, you can follow me more on our social media accounts. You can follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and on Facebook under the Healthy Italia account. I'm not very active on social media on my personal account, so you won't find that much. But you can see me on the Healthy Italia account. So it will be wonderful to meet you there. And if you find that what I'm talking about it could be helpful for anybody, you're more than welcome to share the podcast with your friends or whoever you think might benefit from it. Thank you so much. It means the world to me.